The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with 5 good news stories. Hey, good news if you want to take Taylor Swift on a date, but, maybe she won't say yes to you, or maybe you're afraid she'll write a song about you if the date goes poorly. Well, there's an option now. Why don't you go out with a cardboard cutout of Taylor Swift? That's what happened to Greg Dick. Apparently, he lost a wager in his fantasy soccer league, and he had to take a cardboard cutout of Taylor Swift to dinner after coming in last. Greg and Cardboard Taylor went to a local restaurant. The waitress greeted them, smiled, and then the couple of sorts joined his friends for a pint in the pub. Hey, good news. If you like chocolate and you hate jet lag, I've got a combination for you. Chocolate has been named one of the, quote, key elements for beating jet lag on long-haul flights. Great. Qantas did this study, which is convenient because Qantas is the Australian airline and most of their flights are like 18 hours long. So sure, they're going to convince you, no, what jet lag? Actually, I flew to Melbourne out of Los Angeles and I was fine when we hit the ground. And I don't recall eating any chocolate on the plane, but perhaps I did. I digress. Qantas has been trying out all kinds of things, different lighting, sleep schedules, meal times, see what happens. There's a point to all this. Project Sunrise will see direct routes from London to Sydney. That's got to be like an 18-hour flight in itself, if not more. The research is trying to align the body clock by using specific menu items including fish and chicken paired with fast-acting carbohydrates and comfort foods like soups and milk-based desserts. Dr. Deborah Lee, well, she's no fun. She recommends cutting back on alcohol and caffeine if you've got a long flight. She says alcohol suppresses the production of melatonin, so disturbing circadian rhythms. It may initially make you feel sleepy, but alcohol is broken down into the body into stimulants. Caffeine is a psychoactive stimulant, which means it induces wakefulness and is often used to fight sleep and those who need to stay awake. Good news for 82-year-old Paul Callahan. He's been adopted by a family. Shireen and Wilson met Paul when Wilson was working on their new home, and Paul offered him a ladder to work on. Didn't take long for them to become friends. 6 months later, Paul's wife passed away, so they've taken him in. They now see each other every other day, inviting him to all the family cookouts. They spend every holiday together. Shireen asked Paul what drew him to them, and he said he was a very social person, that he grew up around lots of kids. Shireen says, that's how I grew up. My house was always where everybody hung out. And poor Paul is the last of his siblings, so nice job by Shireen and Wilson. A couple who had reared a 1-day-old duckling before releasing her back to the wild. Well, the duck is back 6 months later and brought a few family members. A while back, Phil had taken the duck under his wing, no pun. Well, pun. After finding her abandoned on a fishing lake. They named the duck Frida and partially potty trained the duck using towels after she came to live with them inside their 3-bedroom house. The couple even took turns sleeping near the demanding bird's bed. It was freezing cold that day. There was no sign of the mother duck, so we brought her home and then thought, well, what do you do with a day-old duckling? They let Frida roam around their living room, kitchen, and garden, allowed her to swim in a pond they've created for goldfish. It wasn't long before she formed a bond with her rescuers. She'd sit on my shoulder and on my table when I was doing my computer work. She was that loving. They eventually released Frida into the wild. It was a bit sad when Frida first went, but at the same time it was a bit of a relief because she was hard work. Well, Frida's back with some ducklings. Phil said, going from 1 duckling to 11 was chaos. It was like, what do you do with this lot? They're now 8 inches long and as fat as butter. Fluffy, very fluffy. They need to swim. They need to wash themselves. We've got tubs everywhere. The garden looks like a bomb site, but I'm not bothered. We allow them in the fish pond in the front garden, but we've dug a separate pond in the back and we feed them cornmeal, worms, and maggots. We expect her to fly off and go back to where she was before, and the ducklings will just follow her and do their own thing.
Are you a parent? Then we've got a message for you. Detective Dexter is a podcast from Granny McDuff Entertainment. An audio-only show that promotes creativity and imagination, Detective Dexter takes you on a new adventure every week. You can find us on all major podcast platforms, new episodes every Monday.
Hey, good news. If you like Ted Lasso, you can go to the actual Ted Lasso pub in Richmond in the UK. Rhys Kent is the manager of the Prince's Head pub. During filming, the pub is turned into the Crown and Anchor, but its whereabouts are still well known. Rhys says it's now a tourist hotspot for Ted Lasso lovers visiting the UK. He says, it's great for the business. It's not just about the pub, though, but about Richmond as a whole. The pub is just at the heart of the community here. We've had people from Brazil, Canada, Australia, Germany. It's been quite a surprise how many people want to come, actually. A lady does a whole Ted Lasso tour around Richmond, and they end up on the bench on the green. Tourists always want to come in and have a chat after. You can even tell when the tour is finished. They all have an AFC Richmond shirt on. And that is your 5 good news stories for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and you have a great day.